Welcome to Making the Cut podcast with Chris Hill and Sean Winter, where we help you succeed in life and business by sharing principles and strategies that guide some of the most successful people in the world.
Welcome to another episode of the Making the Cut podcast. I'm Chris Hill with my co-host, Sean Winter. Today on the show, we have Chef Eric Levine, standout chef, entrepreneur, and he has an incredibly powerful story. But before we jump into that, here's a quick word from our sponsor.
If you want to pursue a career in the food industry, Le Cordon Bleu is the largest network of culinary and hospitality schools with more than 35 institutes in 20 countries around the world. Le Cordon Bleu not only offers you one of the most respected culinary qualifications in the industry, it also gives you a once-in-a-lifetime multicultural experience. Be part of a 120-year legacy and join them for a lifelong journey on your path to culinary mastery. Apply now at cordonbleu.edu/USA. And with that, Chris, I'm excited to connect with Eric again. You know, it's almost been 2 years since I connected with him initially. He was one of the featured chefs in Entrepreneurial Chef, the magazine, and he had a really killer story. I mean, a 5-time cancer survivor. He's a kind of like a no-nonsense, go after what you want, do it with every fiber of your being, and make no excuses. And he's just got a really, really cool story. So I'm really excited to connect with him again.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, as I've been learning more about him, getting ready for this episode, I know he worked under Chef David Burke and has owned his own restaurants, written a couple cookbooks. So done a bunch of great things. I think one Chopped on Food Network. So lots to talk about. What do you say we dive in?
Absolutely. Let's do it.
Hey there, Chef. How's it going?
Awesome. Thank you. Happy good morning.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for joining us. It's a pleasure to connect with you. I've really enjoyed getting to hear your story. You're really powerful. For those listening that might not be familiar with you, maybe you could fill them in on a little bit of your backstory and kind of what's gotten you here so far.
Sure. Well, many
moons
ago, I started in the kitchen when I was 11 years old, out of necessity, growing up in Brooklyn, not a strong financial family, and whatever I could do to help mom. And that's kind of what took me into the kitchen. My first job actually was a dishwasher. And the day that I started, the chef or the lead cook or whatever it was, decided to get into a fight with the owner. And he walked out, and the owner turned to me and goes, "All right, jump on the fry station." Now, I was 11 years old. I knew how to eat French fries. I knew how to eat fried stuff as a kid, but I never worked in the kitchen. And that was the beginning of the beginning for me. So it's been an amazing, so far, 38-year career. I've done some great things I've loved. I've never had a day that I've ever hated this business. And I can really say that with an open heart and honesty. There are tough moments, but I've never, ever thought, why am I doing this? I've never thought of getting out. In fact, I was writing something the other day for somebody, and one of the things that I envied, I guess, people can get away from the kitchen and feel normal. I don't feel normal when I'm not in the kitchen. Maybe it's a curse, maybe it's a blessing, but I find it that when I'm at my best when I'm doing what I love the most, and that's cooking and creating and mentoring and really pushing the limits of what we do and always learning. I mean, it's been so many years and I still get a high out of cooking on the line on a Friday, Saturday night and creating and doing special events and fundraisers. So to me, it's, blessed, spanning 38 years, and most people would want to get out, be alcoholics or dead. And I'm fortunate enough to have none of those issues right now. And not to say that I wasn't a bad kid, but certainly love what I do, and I could enjoy every day. I wake up every day and put my feet on the ground, and it's my birthday. Fighting cancer 5 times and coming out the dark side of that really leveled me and gave me perspective and gave me a vision that I probably wouldn't have had if I didn't go through that adversity. But very blessed to have gone through it. So for me, it's every day is a new day. Every day is a birthday, and I love firing it up and getting up at 4 a.m, go to the gym, and then come to work and start cooking.
I love that. Now, How have you been able to sustain this long and still wake up and feel fired up and have that learning mindset and wanting to get back? How have you been able to sustain this?
I think one of the biggest things for me is I'm never satisfied. I never feel like I've accomplished anything, and I feel like there's so much more to do. So that for me is that fire, that constant motivation to be better than I was yesterday, to elevate people around me and make them better. And I've listened, in 38 years, I've won a lot of awards and done a lot of TV and done some great things, and I have my third cookbook coming out. But that's not success. The success is when I see my staff rise, when I see my staff become monsters, when I see things, when I see people do amazing, and that to me is where I'm at in my career. Again, I go back to, it's not about me, it's about what I do for others, and it's been an amazing ride. So I get up every day and I look for challenges. I look to how to cook better, how to be better at what I do, and surround myself with some amazing friends who happen to be chefs, and we share a lot of knowledge and new ideas. And it's always fun to see some of the younger kids coming up trying to do the things they're doing with, and there's nothing wrong with it, but play a lot with tweezers. And sometimes they forget about cooking, and they think more about the process and the creative than they think about the quality of food. So to me, what drives me is making myself better every day, education, being involved with different organizations, helping others, and also learning from others. I love learning. One of my mentors, probably my biggest influence, David Burke, we talk about this all the time, how the industry has changed so much and we've had to change our style. It's not like back in the 80s at the River Cafe when, we would get crushed on a Friday, Saturday night and stay up till the sun rose. So those, a lot of the kids can't handle that these days. But, the motivation's there every day. I never feel like I've accomplished enough, and I never feel like I've done the best I can. I always feel like I could always do better, and I never take, anything for granted. It's every dish, it's every customer, it's every step, every day, and how do we fire that up and make it better?
When you look at Chef Burke's dishes in his cuisine as well, it's very timeless, and I think in a lot of ways yours is very similar.
Yeah.
Looking at your past, having gone to CIA and working with Chef Burke, obviously he's a mentor of yours. Is he kind of one of the ones that helped instill this idea, maybe seeing the way he operated and the way he handled his staff and the culture he created?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the kitchens were very different back then. It was warrior monster souls that saw no slow down or end. We didn't need breaks. We just needed more business. So yeah, he instilled definitely a set of rules within me that I will never allow to change, and that comes from especially the creative part of it, thinking outside of the box and like destroying the box. So even now when we talk about stuff that he's doing, and he's really resurrected himself again, and that to me is inspirational. I find that someone who's been in the game so long and has had so much success doesn't slow down. Well, I'm not slowing down, and I don't want to ever. And that's one of the things I love about him, is that he's always doing. He's always involved. He's always making something happen. And as a friend and as someone who was kind of a disciple of his as a kid, you learn values. You learn how to create quality. You learn about balance of flavors, texture. And I had worked with a bunch of chefs from France, Italy, and Japan before I got to him. That just reinforced everything I learned from a culinary perspective, and then he just took it to a whole other level. So having that mentorship and the ass kicking every day, it really sculpted my mindset for what I wanted to do and how I wanted to approach it.
I love it. And Eric, one of the things we like to talk about sometimes is some of the challenges that an individual has been through, because we know that a lot of people share similar challenges, and talking about this essentially can help inspire somebody get through what they're experiencing in their life right now. So that said, what was probably the hardest part of your career, or one of the toughest parts in your evolution to get to where you are, and how did you essentially get through that period?
Really, the honest answer to that is back in the 80s when I worked for Burke, I had a hard time understanding why he was at my tail all the time. And it was the sous chef, Paul Zwiebin, who kind of put me aside and he said, you know, you're getting ticked off at him for kicking you all over the place, but you don't realize that he sees something in you and that he wants you to do better than you do. And at that moment, it was an aha moment. I think I was 19 at the time or 18 at the time, and it was that moment of clarity.
Yeah, I feel like you go from being kind of, we had that either that boss or that parent or coach who kind of rides us hard, and you feel like, man, this person's being a real jerk. But then it clicks, and you're like, now I kind of get it. You have one of those moments.
Yeah, the work came in, flipped my whole station upside down 10 minutes before service, and all I wanted to do was take a bat to the side of his skull. And I realized that, I get it. Perfection. PPX, that's what he always called it. And every time we had a not just a VIP, but someone who was above that level, to the highest power, we would call out PPX, and we chef, and then we just hammer it. And that was a valuable lesson in learning about perfection personified. And that was that aha moment when I was a kid. So even now I use that as a learning tool for my staff, kitchen and dining room, where I want them to be able to have that aha moment and make them realize that when we do what we do, we have to be perfect. Not good, not great, not excellent, perfect. Every dish. Doesn't matter if it's a bowl of pasta or it's foie gras. Every dish, one customer at a time, perfect every time. And listen, we're going to mess up. We're going to screw up hard. We're going to have those nights when the rhythm is just off. But as a leader, it's my responsibility to keep them motivated, to push them in the right corners, put people in the right places. And whether it means washing dishes because the dishwasher didn't show up, or work the line or run food, I do whatever I got to do to support my staff and take care of my customers. And at the end of the day, those aha moments have to happen more often for people than it does. And I think that's what a lot of people miss. And they're in it, they're in the game, they're happy to cook, but they're not passionate about it. They're not. It's not their raison d'etre. It's not their breath. And I wake up and I breathe in that air, and I'm just like, okay, now I'm gonna spit out fire every day. That's the only way I know. I don't know good enough. Never slow down because I don't ever want to, lose that opportunity. And that's, I think, also what motivated me was having cancer. The last battle that I had with cancer was called Richter's syndrome, which is an advanced form of chronic lymphocytic leukemia. I had a stage 4. My oncologist told me I had 6 to 8 months to live. And that was the night before. Actually, it was when I was on Chopped, and when I was on Chopped and won, the night before I had a chemo treatment, radiation treatment, and my oncologist gave me the good news of 6 to 8 months to live. So, it'd be easy to go home and blow my head off and get done with it. And then I had one of those, again, aha moments where I'm like, I'm going to stick around. I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to fire it up and get through it. And in the middle of the competition, I realized that I have this opportunity to do something fun and be able to show that no matter how bad it gets, as an individual, you can always push yourself, because at the end of the day, it's what you do. And I have a theory. It's indestructible master of one. When someone tells you you're going to die, that clarity comes up pretty quick. All of a sudden, your focus is a little bit different than it was. And that's where you learn that you don't matter. What you do matters for others. And you have an opportunity every day to be a beacon of hope for somebody who you may not even know, who you may have never met before, but they'll see a post of excitement of what you're doing, and all of a sudden you get an instant message or a direct message or an email or a phone call saying, I was in a shit place and you just turned me around. Thank you. And you never meet these people. You've never met these people before, and all of a sudden you're talking and you have an impact on somebody. For me, as a kid from Brooklyn who went through some pretty insane stuff, that's pretty powerful.
I love it. So let me ask, how do you manage it all? You've got a lot of things going on. there's individuals that dream of being in a position to where they have a lot of things going on, but it's hard work. Are there tactical things that you do? What would you say about how do you get it all done? How do you manage all these things?
I think it's all about the plan of action. It's how you manage your time. You prioritize, and there are things that you want to do every day, but you realize that, that's not significant in the scope of the moment. So I go back to when I used to have a day planner. Everything gets marked with a 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, a 5. I refer to those as DEFCONs. So, when you're at DEFCON 1 and it's 1A, 1B, 1C, you got to prioritize, because the things at DEFCON 5 are kind of, I'll get to it tomorrow if I have to. But you know what? There's 24 hours in a day. I can figure it out. And it's managing your time and managing your mind also. And not getting overwhelmed, and eating healthy, and juicing and drinking water, and making sure that you get a real good meal, not while you're driving from one place to the other, stopping at the candy store and picking up or whatever. It's making sure that you first thing in the morning after the gym and coming to work, I make up a bunch of meals for myself, put them in quart containers, and I go. So this way I know I'm getting nutrition. I know I'm taking care of myself. And I have someone who, a friend of mine, Titus, who is kind of like a health wellness guru, who's my motivation for what I'm doing right now. And, he monitors me, and he makes sure that I'm keeping on track. So, as much as I track everyone, you always have to have someone in your corner who, pushes you on that. Did you eat nutrition? What did you eat today? What did you do at the gym today? And you take pictures and you send it to them and you show them. And, it's one of those things that I think prioritizing everything, that's how I get through my day. And I also say no at times. I've learned the art of saying no, not because I don't want to. It's because sometimes I just can't. And I'd rather do everything I'm doing really well and perfectly than trying to do too much, spread myself too thin, and be average. Average is a garbage place to be. And my customers accept it, and my employees won't accept that from me.
Absolutely. You just touched on something that I've been wanting to touch on in this podcast for a while now, and it's something that a lot of my audience reaches out to me about, and maybe you having dealt with your health issues before, in a far more serious way than most of us have. A lot of cooks, a lot of chefs, a lot of even front of the house, service staff, bartenders don't take care of their health. A lot of times they don't have health insurance, and they go years without seeing a doctor, and burn the candle at both ends. Whether it's working all day and waking up and doing the same thing the next day, or going and having drinks or doing extracurriculars that you probably shouldn't be after work, and it takes a toll on you. I'm wondering if you could maybe give a public service announcement for the folks out there that aren't paying attention to those things.
Well, doing this so long, my God, seeing so many people perish because of their inability to control what they do, or to have people around them who can help them. I think that people need to start to about what they're doing and how they have the negative impact on their health and their families and their lives around outside of the kitchen. I think that if people would just take a minute and pause, and it's kind of like a smoker, someone who's a chef or a cook who smokes, and they taste their food. They're not tasting the pure flavors or essence of the dish. They're tasting it masked by that smoke layer in their mouth. And really, it amazes me after all these years. Since I've been in the kitchen, only when I was a kid did I ever do, I'm literally a kid. When I was 13, I was a heroin addict. So I'm talking from a long, long time ago. That was the only time I ever allowed that to get in my way, whether it was drugs or alcohol or burning the candle at both ends. You can only sustain that for a short period of time before your body starts to break down and you think you're okay, and then it becomes a whole other thing. I truly believe that there's not enough people talking about it. I think when Bourdain was alive, God rest his soul, him and I had talked that kind of stuff where there's not enough out there for chefs or people in the business, bartenders and servers, managers, to to have a place to go to talk about that stuff, to be able to get help. Insurance is a definitely crippling thing in life right now. It's tough, and you want to get something to take the edge off, and you go to the wrong things. And when you start to go holistic and you go into vitamins and treating your body well, I'm proof positive of that. I kicked the crap out of myself, not just from what I was eating right. I had the unfortunate of having gone through chemo radiation, which kind of really crushed my whole immune system. I've never gotten sick. I've gotten sick, I think, once as an adult. I've gotten cancer, but I've only gotten, I rarely get sick. But I take vitamins. I watch what I eat. I intake proper nutrition. And what I don't, listen, as a chef, you know how to cook. Doesn't mean you know how to eat right. I went vegan for 90 days back in May. And you could really eat garbage food as a vegan. And I had to realize that what I was eating, the processed foods, wasn't helping me. So I really did a lot of research and paid attention. And online is a wonderful thing to find things that work. And you also have to find things that work for you as an individual. What gets you going? As cooks, as chefs, as people in the business, we rely heavily on caffeine to get us going, or the alternative is the bottle or drugs. And that's not a very healthy place to be.
I think we need to also as mentors, keep an eye on the people below us, around us, and hold them accountable.
Oh, absolutely. I think that's without question. I think any mentor in the kitchen needs to have their cooks, their servers, their managers' backs, and recognizing the gaps that are there. We all have bad moments and bad days, but it's how do we help them overcome that? How do we support? The day of the chef throwing knives and pans and bottles against the wall because they're pissed off is gone. Now it's paying attention to things, all the details, all the emotions of the kitchen. Because as a chef, you can screw up the vibe in the kitchen in a heartbeat. If you're having a bad day, I can't, as a chef, as a mentor, as an entrepreneur, I cannot have a bad day. Because if I have a bad day, the energy gets sucked out of the restaurants. And I cannot afford to do that. And as chefs, we have that ability to motivate or crush, people's spirits. And who wants to crush people's spirits? I want to raise their spirits, and other chefs should want to do that. Let go of the ego. It's kind of like when a customer says, "Oh, can you not, I want this dish, but I don't want it with this and that." And the chef says, "Nope, not going to do it." I'm sorry, stop being an asshole and take care of your customers. That's what they're there for. You could explain to them that it may change the complexity of the dish, what the intent of the dish was, and it'll be on the customer. But stop, man. You're like just stop doing that. Like you're not that important that someone can't change. They don't want this with that. Who cares at the end of the day? They pay the bills. We're here to serve. Shut up and cook. It's crazy. Like I hear people talk about this all the time. Like, oh, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do that. What's the message you send to the kids that are coming up? You can say no to a customer? I don't know. I've worked with some of the best in the world. Never heard them say no, not one iota, ever. And that's what we try to, always encourage our staff to do, and always encourage our people to do. We don't say no. If it's in our hands, if it's in our restaurants, we do it without question. There's no reason not to. And I think that as mentors, you got to be able to guide your team and guide your people and make sure that you're always on top of paying attention to them. So they have a problem with alcohol or drugs or sex or whatever. As a mentor, you got to be able to recognize that and to be able to help them where you can, or guide them. And you really need, as an entrepreneur, you need to do that, because then you'll be left with nobody in your restaurants. You'll be left with nobody in your kitchen because they're all out, strung out on the backyard and in the back behind the dumpster.
Yeah, so many good points. Now, to kind of wrap up, what's on the horizon for you, Eric? What do you have coming down the pipe? I know you mentioned another cookbook, right?
Yes. So the new cookbook, Burgers, Bowls, and Jars, will be out either by the end of December or the beginning of January when it comes over from China. But we got a lot of other things we're working on for the restaurants and kind of reinventing the wheel. And next year, hoping to open up at least one more, and put pushing that envelope, doing a lot more public speaking for myself, and working on different blogs, and hopefully getting a podcast going as well. Kind of really geared towards the chef and the kitchen life. But I'm always working on something because I like to be busy, and I like to fill the basket, because the idle hands are the devil's work, and I've had enough. I've had enough of that in my life. I just want to cook, and I want to create, and I want to elevate my team around me. And I've actually had some interesting outside of the restaurant world organizations come to me about giving some keynotes, which is kind of fun, and especially when it's outside your comfort zone. There's two tech firms that wanted to come out and talk about just being motivated in life. So that's where I feel uncomfortable, but comfortably uncomfortable. So it's a new world, and it's a new opportunity every day, and I embrace it. And I love the fact that you guys had me on, and I appreciate the opportunity to be here.
Absolutely. Well, Chef, thank you so much for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure. What a great conversation.
Yeah, thank you so much. And folks can also pre-order the book on your website, right?
Yes.
ChefEricLevine.com?
Yep. It's
Levine.com.
Yes,
cool.
Sir.
Thank you so much for joining us, buddy. We'll talk soon.
All right. Congrats on all your success, guys. Thanks so much.
You too, buddy. Thanks a lot.
All right.
So that was our conversation with Chef Eric Levine. Sean, what were your takeaways, man?
I really enjoyed talking with Eric again, just as much as I did almost 2 years ago, as I'd mentioned before. But I think that there's two things that stood out to me. One was that he doesn't feel satisfied, and he wakes up every day trying to do more. I really liked his quote at the end, which is a saying I think I've heard before, but the idle hands are the devil's work. I thought that was hilarious. And the other part was that as a leader, you just can't have a bad day, because you will suck the energy from your business or out from your team. And that was something that people should pay attention to, is that their energy is going to affect others. And it's a very key point. So what about you?
Yeah, man. I a lot of great points. I think, a lot of what he was talking about really resonated with me, having, lost my mom to cancer, when I was younger. Obviously, it wasn't me dealing with it, but you still have to deal with the adversity of it, and I think it really helps give you a new kind of lease and perspective on life. And I think it's really cool to see kind of how he's overcome, and it's a real testament. I think in this industry, in business and life in general, you have to overcome obstacles, at every turn, and the more you're willing to embrace those and, like you said, take responsibility for your own happiness, the more successful you're going to be. So great insights. Look forward to checking out the new cookbook. And with that, we'll leave you with one final quote from Eric. When it's in your DNA, it's all you want to do. There's no drug like the kitchen. 38 years, and I will never slow down. Fire it up. And with that, we're signing off.